Today I'm going to show you a simple way to start an abstract drawing. Hello, I'm Cameron Peterson, co-owner of Funhouse Press with the Nettu board, and I also work here at the Rourke Art Gallery Museum as exhibition coordinator. To begin with, we have our supplies, and so I'm using charcoal and conte, and I like them because you can smear them a little bit better than you can graphite, but if you only have graphite at home, that's fine. The softer the lead, probably the more success you'll have. And then I have erasers to erase in and erase out, and then I have just a rag to do some smudging, and then fixative. Or if you just have hairspray at home, if you're just sketching, using hairspray is perfectly fine. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to draw 3 little squares on the top. And 1 big square on the bottom. Now these little 3 squares are going to be your thumbnail squares, so you can actually go back and reference them while you're drawing. And so the first one, what I want to start off with is just a free, spontaneous squiggle or whatever in your mind. And that kind of represents the action painters of the abstract expressionists. And then the second one, what I'd like you to do is actually simplify something from nature. If you can kind of picture it as explaining to someone a book you've read in 1 sentence. It's going to be fairly vague, but yet you still kind of get an idea of what's there. And so for my simplification, I'm actually just going to use the top of this bottle and the corner of this bottle. So I have a little bit of the cap, and then it kind of goes out and over like that. And so you can see that it's just a corner of the abstract. And a lot of European artists started abstract works by abstracting from nature. The third piece I'm going to show you is actually just geometric shapes, and that's more for ornamentation, used for the greatest example is probably the 18th century wallpaper makers William Morris and Owens. And so just a couple of geometric shapes to get your form in. And so I will go like that. And now that you have your thumbnails, a good place to start is to pick one of your thumbnails to be the major part of your composition. So I'm going to pick actually the geometric thumbnail, and I'm actually going to copy it fairly accurate. And now at this point, you can see that there's different planes that have been broken up, and if you want to, you can soften them up and add some atmosphere. And this is kind of an overall generalization of color. And then with the charcoal, it's really nice to smear. Don't worry about going outside of the lines. You're just getting started, and there will be a lot of push and pull in between these. So now you have kind of a mid-tone going, and then you still have some bright white areas and not very many dark areas. So the second I would approach is we have this squiggly line here, and I think that would be a good texture to kind of have in the back of this area. And as you're doing this, be experimental. There is no right or wrong. What you should be looking for is how you can push contrast, and that's a major reason why I'm doing this in charcoal instead of color, so then you can see how the lights and the darks react to one another. And so with that squiggly line, I made the texture in the background of this, but then let's add our third one, and we can go and so I'm just adding this in as a texture, and I'm going to break this plane again, and I might break it all the way through the circle, so then there is a little bit of overlap, and then we can darken this area. And so what you're doing is you're just building up slow areas, one little section at a time. And I'm actually going to color this cap. And so with charcoal, you usually start off really light and then get darker, unless you're absolutely dedicated to making it dark, and then you can scrub it in there, because once you have your charcoal on there, it's going to be a little bit harder to erase, as I can show you right here. Well, that's working pretty good actually. And so that creates an atmosphere in front of that, so that pushes your original drawing backwards, and then we can add more texture to kind of add it. So let's add a repetition within the composition. And now with this circle in the middle, let's add another repetition of the original design that you added there. And so now you have three different layers of atmosphere. You have this, the middle one, and then the far back one that is showing. And we can color this to bring it in. And I'm going to redo that to create a rhythm of little dark areas within the composition. Then also we can start adding a little bit of value change, even though this isn't depicting anything, but it will give it a little bit more interesting pop to it, and kind of make people believe that they are seeing something that's realistic, but when they really look, it isn't there. And with this project, you can do it over and over again or work up on the same surface. Usually when it comes to abstraction, I usually work on 3 or 4 different abstracts at the same time to have them feed off of each other, because you could see something that you like in one that you would rather have in another piece. And this is also a sketch that we did for this project. And this is the sketch I did this morning. And these are all examples of students that I've had that have done different pieces. And you can see how wildly different they are. It's not a formula, it is just a set of guidelines, but it's not a formula how to make the perfect abstract. And a lot of these too, like even this one, seems fairly realistic, and then if you look closely into them, she's starting to get the abstract pulled out of the reality. And that's how you make an abstract piece of artwork.